morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, wherever you are joining us from today. And you're very welcome to a very unique and intriguing bite-sized webinar from WSET exploring the flavor foundations of cognac and Scotch. And we're very lucky to be joined by a distiller who is one of the few distillers to have a deep understanding of the production of both cognac and Scotch in Guillaume Brunet. Guillaume, how are you?
I'm good, and you? Thank you for welcoming me for that webinar. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, very, very happy to have you on board for this webinar. I think it's going to provide some very unique insights for the WSET audience. A small bit of housekeeping before we begin. As you may or may not already know, as you're watching this today, the Wine and Spirit Education Trust, otherwise known as WSET, is the world's leading provider of qualifications and courses in wines, spirits, beers, and sake. WSET has over 55 years experience in designing and delivering education to help both professionals and consumers learn more about wine, beer, spirits, and sake. And you can take WSET qualifications in over 70 countries through a network of over 900 course providers. If you're interested in finding out more about your next WSET journey, please visit wsetglobal.com to find your nearest course provider. This session is being recorded and will be available to watch on the WSET Global Events Hub on YouTube. And if you have any questions for Guillaume as the presentation progresses, please add them in the Q&A box. We will be monitoring the Q&A box and we will post as many of those questions as possible to Guillaume at the end of the session. And to give you an idea of Guillaume's background, he is a whiskey maker at Moffat Distillery in Scotland, and he has a multidisciplinary background in wine, cognac, pisco, and Scotch whiskey production. He began his career in the wine industry before moving to cognac, where he worked as assistant master blender at Cognac Francois Voyer, where he oversaw distillation, maturation, and blend development. After leaving cognac, he spent some time in Peru working on an artisanal pisco distillery, deepening his understanding of grape-based spirits and traditional distillation methods. And Guillaume now works in Scotland as a whiskey maker involved in fermentation, distillation, maturation, and blending. This main presentation from Guillaume is going to last approximately 20 to 25 minutes, and there will be a Q&A directly afterwards. And with all that said, over to you, Guillaume, and I am very much looking forward to being an audience member for this very intriguing seminar.
All right. Thank you very much for the introduction, Charlie. Hello everyone, and thank you very much for joining today. I'm very happy to see so many of you joining for that webinar here today. So we are going to talk about cognac and Scotch whiskey by comparing how they are produced and how their flavor foundation are built. We will look at the key differences in the production process through five main stages, which are the terroir, raw material, fermentation, distillation, and then maturation. So let's get on to it, and we're gonna start by the first point, which is the terroir, and most importantly, the cognac terroir. So as you may know, cognac is made of grapes. Cognac terroir play a very strong influence on the vine. The cognac terroir is mostly defined by the soil. Soil play a very important role in the final style of cognac. It strongly influence the vine, the ripening of the grapes, the level of acidity, and therefore the potential, the aromatic potential of the wine that will later be distilled. So the cognac region is divided in six different crus. We call that cru in French, which is different zone with different type of soil. So we have the Grand Champagne, which is over there. You can see the small laser. You have the Petit Champagne, which is there. The Bordeaux, which is the smallest zone of the cognac. We have the Fin Bois, which is all over here. The Bon Bois, all around here, and then the Bois Ordinaire, which is the most close to the sea, with next to La Rochelle. So we're gonna have a small look at each one of them in terms of soil and what they bring. So Grand Champagne is mainly made of chalk and limestone. The vineyard are growing in a very particular way. The grapes have a very slow ripening, so it creates a lot of high ester potential. I don't know if you know what is ester. Ester is aromatic compounds. So the grapes, the most slowly the ripening is, the most ester potential you create. So the Grand Champagne, the wine that are coming from there have a very long aging potential. Grand Champagne is well known for make the best cognac. Then we have the Petit Champagne, which is quite similar than the Grand Champagne in terms of soil, chalk and limestone. You have a slightly faster ripening in terms of grapes, still create a very high ester potential with a long aging potential as well. You have to understand that cognac maker, uh, before making cognac, they are most of all winemaker. So there is the same philosophy as making wine. Then you have the Borderie, which is the smallest zone into the Cognac terroir. It's mostly made of silica and clay. The grapes are very earlier ripening. Borderie are well known for create very aromatic and floral cognac. I really like Borderie. They have that really typical taste that can be recognized between other. And in terms of aging potential, we are in a medium to high aging potential. Then we have the fin bois, which is a mix of soil with clay, limestone, and sand. Quite fast ripening, so medium ester potential and medium to high aging potential. I really like as well cognac from fin bois. They are quite fruity, very accessible cognac. And then we have the Bon Bois and the Bois Ordinaire, which are two zones with a very sandy soil, very similar zone. They have a very quick ripening. The cognac make on those zones are quite rustic profile, quite simple, with a very short aging potential. So yeah, that was for the cognac terroir. Comparing now with the Scotch whiskey terroir, when we look at Scotch whiskey, the concept of terroir is quite different. As you may know, whiskey is made with barley. So the barley is grown in many places in Scotland, and most distillery use barley sourced from large barley company. So the final style of Scotch whiskey is not really defined by the soil where the barley grew. Instead, Scotch whiskey terroir is mainly defined by human uh, choice about which type of barley they're going to use. We're going to see that after. The fermentation choice, the distillation choice, the maturation strategy. So that's completely up to the decision of the people. Of course, there is a region, like typical region of Scotch whiskey. You have the Highlands, the Lowlands. I'm pretty sure you've seen that before. You have the Speysides. Each of these regions have a typical and traditional style of making whiskey. Islay is well known to make very smoky whiskey. Highlands is well known for make very complex and with a lot of body whiskey. Lowlands is well known for make light whiskey, but it doesn't matter. You can find very smoky whiskey in Lowlands. You can find a very light whiskey in Highlands. So it's really up to the distiller. It's the distiller who make the terroir and his decision. So let's move on now with the raw material. So cognac is, like I was saying before, is made of grapes, white cepage. The variety the most used is the Uni Blanc. 99% of the cognac is made of Uni Blanc. As you may know, grapes takes 1 year to grow. It's very influenced by the climate. And if it was a very rainy year, if it was snowing, if it was a warm year, so the taste every year will be different. So like I was saying, same philosophy as wine, cognac, they are thinking as vintage. Every year is different. Every profile is different depending of the year. Harvest time is in September for the cognac. Cognac makers are looking for very high acidity. They try to harvest with a high acidity inside the grapes. Why acidity is so important? Because high acidity helps the formation of fruity esters during fermentation. So that's really something that distillers are looking into it. And the other very key point comparing to barley is that grapes have natural fermentable sugar inside. So you just need to press the grapes and you have like already sugar accessible to be fermented and to convert into alcohol. And that's quite different comparing to barley. So like I was saying, Scotch whiskey is made of barley. The most common use variety is the laureate. There is many different varieties, but the most common one is the laureate. We call that spring barley. 5 to 6 months to grow. Harvest time is between July and September. Distiller, they are looking for low nitrogen inside the raw barley because low nitrogen means more starch. And we will see that starch play a really important matter because starch, there is sugar locked into starch. But those sugar, they are not fermentable. And there is no fermentable sugar accessible in the raw barley. So what we need to activate enzyme to convert starch into fermentable sugar. We call that the malting process. Very quickly, what's the malting process? You take your raw grain, you step it into water, the grain gonna germinate and activate those enzymes. We then after convert the sugar, the starch into fermentable sugar. But we need to stop the germination for keep those enzymes and the starch. So we have to dry the barley for stop the germination. We call that the kilning process. And so the kilning process is a very important step because it will define the aromatic profile of the barley. We're gonna have a deeper look on the kilning. So if you have a really light drying, like a light kiln, you're gonna preserve the gracy and the maltiness of the barley. If you use like a very medium drying, medium kiln, you're gonna create aromatic precursor as biscuity and toffee, and the barley gonna take that nice golden color. If you have a very heavy drying, heavy kiln, you're gonna have a very like dark fruit and coffee and chocolate, very aromatic barley. When you receive like heavy kiln barley, it really looks like coffee grain. Or for dry your barley, you can use peat. Pretty sure you heard about peat before. It's the partially decomposed organic matter formed in soil in part of Scotland. Scottish people used to use it for warm up their house and dry the barley. And what it brings like very medicinal, earthy, and smoky and seashell notes. The typical smokiness that you find sometimes into whiskey. It means that the barley have been dry with peat. So as I was saying before, that the distiller, like the terroir, the Scotch whisky terroir is mostly about decision about the distiller. It's like by selecting specific type of kiln, the distiller will define the flavor identity because one distiller can decide, okay, I want to use only the line kiln, or I want to use only the heavy kiln barley, or only peated, or maybe a mix of four, or maybe just two of them. It will create different profile depending of the decision that you take at this moment. Then we have fermentation. So the fermentation of cognac is like it's quite simple. Uh, it's like it's like winemaking, but in a simpler way. So grape juice that you just press, we add in yeast. It's quite short fermentation into stainless steel tanks, like 4 or 5 days fermentation. Um, like I was saying before, like during the fermentation, we have a formation of fruity esters, which is the combination of fatty acid and ethanol. So that's why the quantity of acidity inside the grapes is very important. And of course, depending from where the grapes coming from which type of soil is coming from, the profile of the wine will be different, and the quantity of ester will be low or higher. One of the famous ester that have been created during the fermentation is isoamyl acetate. That's just for the geek one who like to know about compounds. Uh, is the compounds who taste like banana, pear, and fruity. And distillers are really looking into it to create a lot of isoamyl acetate. So the result is a wine which is very low in alcohol, about 10%. Sometimes it's even less, like 8 to 9%, so a very low in alcohol wine, but very high in acidity and esters. And acidity not only play a major role in our formation of ester, but it will help the wine to don't get oxidate because the wine have to rest before be distilled. And we know that acidity will help against the oxidation. And during that resting times, uh, the dead yeast cells will die and go at the bottom of the tank and create like a very thick substance that we call lees. They are very concentrated in fruity and buttery esters, and cognac makers are really making sure to create that those lees at the bottom of the tank, because you will see it will have a huge impact after when we distill those lees. So for the Scotch whiskey, the fermentation is quite different. So that's the wort plus the yeast. What's the wort? After the kilning process, the drying process, we have our barley that we're gonna soak into hot water, and we're gonna extract all that sugar, and we're gonna obtain like a very sweet liquid, and we're gonna add yeast to it. So we're gonna start the fermentation into washback, wood or stainless tank. The result is called wash. It's a kind of beer, about like 7 to 11% ABV. So the distiller have two options in terms of fermentation. You can choose to do a short fermentation, which is 48 hours. You're gonna preserve mostly the taste of the barley himself, the maltiness and the biscuit notes. Or you can decide to make a long fermentation up to 7 days. Sometimes it's even more. And you're gonna create more fruity esters like isoamyl acetate, the same than the cognac, or floral and very fruity notes. So again, that's the choice of the distiller, that will make the difference. But comparing to cognac, the wash, as soon as it's finished to ferment, is straight away sent to be distilled. There is no resting time, so no sedimentation of lees, no creation of that thick substance like cognac maker are looking for. So let's move on with the distillation. So first, the cognac distillation is a double distillation in a alambic charentais, we call that. I'm pretty sure you've seen that alambic before. You have the typical shape of an onion. It's entirely made in copper. That's regulation is mandatory by the regulation of cognac. So the first distillation, we take our wine, and we're gonna distill it. We're gonna obtain what we call low wine in English, but in French they call it brouilly, which is around like 30% ABV. And then the slow wine, we're gonna distill them in a second distillation, and we're gonna obtain our heart. I don't know if I'm pretty sure you know about the heads, the heart, and the tails. The heart is the middle cut of the distillation. That's the good part that we're gonna keep, and it's about like 70% alcohol. The particularity of the cognac distillation is they are using the same alembic for both distillation. So by using the same alembic for both distillation, it will help preserve aromatic continuity and build texture and vary a lot of body in the spirits. Another particularity of the cognac distillation is the use of direct fire. So they use the flame which is in direct contact with the copper over there. So you're gonna create Maillard reaction. Pretty sure you heard about the Maillard reaction. If there is some cooker in the audience, that's the reaction between amino acid and sugar. It's the same principle when you are grilling a piece of meat. You're going to create a small caramelization and very aromatic profile. The same happen on the still. So that's one of the particularity of the cognac distillation is the use of direct fire. And of course, combined with the use of the lees, the lees, that thick substance. So you're going to create a very powerful, very mouthfeel of cream and fruity and buttery notes. I remember when I was working in cognac, I was always looking forward to distill with the lees because it was making so much difference between distilling with lees and without. The heart was just beautiful. That creaminess, that butteriness, it was bringing a lot of emotion. Let's move on with the Scotch distillation. So same, it's a double distillation, the same as cognac, but in a very different manner. It's because they are using two different alembic. So the first distillation goes into a wash still, which is over there. So the first distillation is the wash. So the beer that we've seen before, gonna go inside that still for be distilled. The main difference with cognac is they are using steam instead of direct fire. There is still distillery in Scotland where are using direct fire. The distillery where I'm working, we're using direct fire. Most of the distillery in Scotland, right, at the moment are using steam. For many reasons, steam is more easy to control the temperature with the steam, and it creates a better consistency between the different distillation than direct fire. Sometimes it can be various because it's complicated sometimes to control the temperature. So that's one of the main reasons. But of course, using steam, you have a bit less of Maillard reaction. So the result is low wines, around 30% ABV as well. And then the slow wines are sent to the spirit still, which is often more smaller than the wash still, where you see it's different still. And again, the use of steam, no direct fire. And the result is the new make spirit, the same. We make the cuts, heads, heart, and tails. The massive difference between Scotch distillation and cognac distillation is Scottish distiller can use a very different various shape of still. That's one of the shape that I'm showing it to you right now, but they can use a very different shape. They can use onion shape like the cognac, pear shape, and we know that each shape of still will define if the spirits will be lighter or heavier. We will need a full webinar for explain each shape, what it will bring, and we don't have time for that, but just let you know that the distiller have the choice of the shape of his still for create the whiskey profile that he want to. He can play as well with the line arm, that over there that I'm showing you. The inclination of the line arm will impact as well the distillation profile. And then let's move on to maturation. So very two different philosophy about maturation. So cognac maturation, again, is mandatory by the regulation of cognac, is the use of French oak only, almost only. And they are using like almost as well like virgin oak. So what they do is the new make spirit, they are saying it to a virgin oak so a very strong extraction during early aging, and then progressive extraction as they're gonna move the liquid into more aged cask. So very strong extraction and then integration very slowly by moving the liquid in all the cask. What's the particularity of the French oak? French oak inside the stave, the inside of the cask, inside of the wood, there is aromatic compounds, and French oak are very high concentrate into furfural, which is a very toasty bread and brioche aroma. There is a high concentration as well in vanillin, which is the vanilla aroma. And as well, very high concentration is eugenol, which is the cloves and spicy. But the most important about French oak is they have a lot of tannin. So you're going to bring a lot of structure to the cognac and a lot of color as well. So that's the particularity of the French oak. In terms of climate in cognac, it's mostly a temperate oceanic climate. What it means, it means that it's quite hot during summer, so there is more extraction inside of the wood for the cognac, and it's quite cold. It can be quite cold during winter. It was snowing a week ago in Cognac, so there is not too much extraction in a colder temperature. So there is a lot of variation of extraction during the year in the cognac maturation. And so we have a Angers share, so that's the how much evaporation of alcohol there is per year. So it's about 2-3%. It's not that much, but it's quite high. For give you an idea, in the Caribbean island, in a rum distillery, the Angers share is about 12% per year. So that's quite high. And then let's move on to Scotch maturation. So Scotch whiskey, that doesn't have any oak origin, is not restricted. They can take oak from whatever country in the world if they want to. They are mostly using refill cask, so cask who already have old another spirits before. The mostly used one is the ex-bourbon cask. 80% to 90% of a warehouse in a distillery there is ex-bourbon cask for the maturation. What bring the ex-bourbon cask? You have a high concentration in whiskey lactone, which is the aroma of coconut, and a lot of vanillin. You know this one now. So a very aromatic cask. But comparing to the French cask, it doesn't have that much tannin, so the extraction is more gentle, it's more aromatic comparing to a French cask. The other cask, which is the mostly used as well for Scotch maturation, is ex-sherry cask from Spain, who old before fortified wine. So ex-sherry cask gonna bring a lot of like cooked orange aroma and a lot of sauterlon. Sauterlon is oxidative aromatic compounds that create that nutty and sherry notes. I don't know if you tried before fortified wine. We have that nutty hazelnut and sherry taste. So you're gonna bring that to the whiskey and a lot of color as well. So yeah, that's the two main casks used for Scotch maturation. They have infinite possibility. They can use ex-cognac, ex-rum, ex-port, ex-madeira cask if they wanted to. So that's the main difference with the cognac maturation is like whiskey distiller have a large choice for create different aromatic profile. In terms of climate, as you know, Scotland is not it's not a summer holiday destination. It's quite cold and quite humid as well. What it means is there is a slower extraction from the oak, so the aging is more gentle. So we have an Angers share which is about 1.5 to 2%. Sometimes it's even less. So yeah, that was it for the maturation. So you've seen two very different way of making spirits, and that's the beauty of it. The idea of the webinar was not to say which one is the best, but just to see the difference, and I think that's the very beauty of it is to they have just two different philosophy and yeah, that's the magic of it. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Guillaume. I learned a lot there, and it's always fascinating to hear from distillers directly.
Yeah.
We have got a lot of questions in the
Ah,
Q&A.
that's
So
good.
yes, there's big engagement. So that's wonderful. I'm just going to pop through as many as we can get through in the
Yeah,
time
sure.
allocated. So the first question is about the acidity. Does acidity play a role in preserving the wine so that you don't have to use sulfur because sulfur being concentrated in distillation might be an issue?
Yeah, exactly. You cannot use sulfur into cognac because it's exactly what you said. When you use sulfur and you distill sulfur, it creates a very toxic compound.
Mm-hmm.
So the only way for preserve the wine is the acidity, because we know that wine in acidity it get preserved against bacteria. And
Mm-hmm.
the other way is most part of the tank are outside in cognac. You will see in the cognac distillery, most part of the wine are preserved outside. And
Okay.
so the distillation happen during winter. So the wine
Mhm.
are well preserved under 10 degree by themselves. So
Oh, perfect.
high
Very interesting.
acidity in a very cold atmosphere.
High
So
acidity, cold atmosphere. There's a follow-up question, which is if acid content is useful, does that mean that cloudy, cool, dry vintages are more highly prized, or are there other elements that affect that?
sorry, I didn't.
Because you get higher acidity when you have a
Yeah.
cooler growing season, is a cold, cloudy growing season preferable, or is it a bit more complicated than that?
No. It's cool, preferable. It's simple as that. Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. Moving then on in the production process onto this rest period, resting the wine on the lees.
Yes.
Is there a typical duration that the wine might be rested on the lees for cognac production?
Um. No, there is not. I mean, in cognac, you finish making your wine end of September, and
Hmm.
you have until March to distill that wine.
Hmm.
So we know that as soon as you wait, I know that for have the formation of the lees, you need at least like a proper month
Okay.
before distilling. Um, but after that, we know that the wine decreasing slowly. So when
Hmm.
you arrive at end of March, I know that what we were distilling, the wine was not that aromatic and that expressive.
So,
And
so
you
the
have,
vibrancy of the
yes,
aromas drops away. Okay,
yes,
so it's a sliding scale.
yes. And you have a risk that the lees can have like a micro oxidation and that at some point you get too much oxidate. But
Okay.
yeah,
Okay, very interesting. Now, there was an interesting discussion that was happening in the chat section about champagne, and that
champagne.
obviously people confuse it with the sparkling wine, but that word
Yes,
in French just means field, and they're not related, different parts of the country, correct?
yes. Champagne in the cognac language, it means chalk. You know
Hmm.
that type of soil because
Hmm.
the cognac area is there is a lot of chalk, so that's why they are called it that champagne. So that's why the two zone Grand Champagne,
Hmm.
Petit Champagne are a soil with a lot of chalk.
Okay,
But you
well,
have nothing to do
that.
with the you have
Yeah.
nothing to do with the champagne at
Nothing
all.
to do with champagne. And thank you as well to some of our educators who helped with that answer in the
Ah yeah.
comments, such as Bharat helped us with that from Dubai. Thank you very much.
Ah, you're
Um,
welcome.
uh, so you work at Moffat Distillery. Moffat Distillery is very unique in Scotland
Yes.
because it uses wood fire to create direct fire, which is so different from the indirect heating from steam coils, which is
Yes.
standard. Can you talk through how that affects the spirit?
Yeah, like you said, it's quite uncommon. Like I was saying in my webinar, most of the distillery are using steam. So yeah, coming back to the old roots in Scottish distillation, first of all, it's amazing. And what does impact first is a lot of work. It's quite tricky to control the temperature because of course you have wood, so you need to control the temperature with the entry of the wind. What's the big impact inside of the still? You know that Maillard reaction that I was talking about for the cognac
Mhm.
distillation.
Yeah.
is that effect is double it or triple it because you have like a very big caramelization at the bottom of the still. So
Hmm.
you have a very distinctive aroma that is going to come out from it.
And
So
that's an intentional style at Moffat.
yes, yes, it
Yeah.
is, it is. So you have a very powerful low wines.
Hmm.
Low wines are not that smelly. They are a bit fruity, but our low wines are so powerful and they have that bit smokiness and toasted bread that honestly I've never smelled before. And of course we are using a very small alembic, so there is more
Hmm.
copper content. So yeah, it's quite unique. But I definitely understand why big distillery have changed to to steam because it's really too complicated to work with wood fire. But that's the magic of it.
Magic. I guess you must have to maintain your stills quite carefully with that.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. And
Yeah.
it's learning a tradition that it been a bit lost. So that's
Mhm.
good.
Well, it sounds very, very exciting. I look forward to tasting it someday.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's still
Yeah.
aging.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll wait with patience.
Yeah.
There was a question about so we must use French oak for cognac, correct?
Yes.
And
Uh,
is there a mandated charring or toasting level, or is there a wide range of choice there?
The sharing level is a large, yeah, there is a large choice of yeah, it's true that I haven't talked about char, but there is a large choice of sharing the oak, like light, medium, high, or very high. It's not very common to have a very high charred oak. Most part of the time it's medium to light. The philosophy of cognac is try to catch the aroma from the soil and to don't change it
Oh,
that much.
yeah.
So they really try to yeah to just take the aroma from the soil and yeah don't make too many changes on it.
Very nice. Speaking of making changes, there's an interesting question. It's common for people to add a drop of water to scotch to open it out, but you
Yeah,
don't really see that happening so much in fruit spirits in general and in cognac in particular. And now we observe in our classroom that it can affect the body of the cognac if you add a little bit of water. Can you talk us
yeah.
through why that happens?
Oh, what are gonna break down some amino acid and esters. So you're gonna just opens up the ester that have been compact between them. So the water gonna break down those esters. That's the main effect of water. Um, of course, you're gonna lower the sensation of ethanol.
Mhm.
So I know that for some people, sometimes we're not used to, but the ethanol can take a big part of your palate, and you are
Mhm.
missing the aroma. But by sorry, just gonna charge my computer before it turn up.
Ah, important.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, water opens up. But it's true that in cognac is something that people doesn't do much adding water to it.
Mhm.
After for sure we we found more in whiskey like whiskey with cask strength like at 46 or higher ABV. It's not really
Mhm.
common in cognac to find very high cognac. It's around like 40% ABV.
40 seems to be almost standard across the board,
Yes,
isn't it? Yeah.
so it's mostly in the whiskey world that we're adding water.
Hmm. And I want to go back to the start of the process again, talking about the terroir, talking about the
Yeah.
grapes, the Uni Blanc grapes that's predominantly used. I know there are some other grapes that can
Yes.
get used as well. Can you talk about the preference for Uni Blanc and maybe how difficult is it to preserve a terroir in the final spirit because of all the other steps?
Yeah, yeah. So before Uni Blanc, the mainly used grapes it was Folle Blanche, uh,
Hmm.
which was the main variety. But I don't know if you know, during the 19th century we had the phylloxera, which it
Hmm.
was a big disease that destroyed all the vine in France. So they realized that Uni Blanc it was a bit more resistant to the that sickness, and as well it was making more volume in terms of juice. You need a lot of wine for make cognac. You need 10 liters of wine for make 1 liter of cognac. That's the ratio. So you need a large quantity of wine. So Uni Blanc, they realized that they were making like very big grapes. They have a very high acidity level, and they were making a lot of juice. They were easy to grow. They were adaptable to whatever soil, so they changed it to that. There is still some producers are using Fol Blanche, but yeah, that's the main reason that they switched to Uni Blanc. And I don't know what it was your other question.
Just about how difficult is it as a cognac producer to preserve that idea of terroir throughout the
Um,
process?
um, the regulation is quite strict about that, so it's not that difficult. But of course, you need to have a big care about your soil. Um, Fermentation is going quite easily. There is not a big various big different yeast. There is not too many options in terms of yeast. We know that the yeast can affect the profile and can change that. Uh, Cognac regulation are very strict. There is only two or three yeast possible on the market that preserve the original taste of the grapes. Distillation, the fact that that this direct flame it helps as well to doesn't impact too much the terroir. The fact that many centuries ago they realized that the French oak was perfectly adaptable for the cognac, and it will just sublime the product but not change it. So yeah, it's all those steps. But of course, the regulation is quite strict for help that.
Mm.
It's
Well,
just
okay, yeah. And one thing that people who study WSET qualifications will know is that French spirits producers have to obey some very strict regulations.
yeah.
Yeah,
It
it's
can be
very
a bit,
codified.
it can
Yeah.
be a bit boring saying that because
Yeah.
you don't have space sometimes for experimentation, but
Yeah.
that's the beauty of it as well.
Yeah. We have got time for just one more question, and apologies
Sure.
that we haven't had a chance to get to everybody's Q&A. We're just going to go back to a question that we had from, let's see, one last question. Who's it going to be? Um, Bruno Pietoso asks, it's common practice for whiskey distillers, sorry, is it as common practice for whiskey distillers to move your spirit from barrel to barrel to barrel through the aging process we see in cognac? Obviously, cognac is a very dynamic aging process. In most of the large whiskey distillery houses, they just put it in one cask and they leave it, and then they
Yeah,
check it occasionally. What
that's
about your practice at Moffat?
when I went to Moffat, they have the same philosophy. Like you put a whiskey into a cask and you just, I would say, forget about it.
Or check on it occasionally,
Yeah,
but you're
we
not
check
moving.
we
Yeah,
check
yeah,
later, but it's
yeah.
not really common to change liquid. They just leave it in one cask, and that's it. But what I try to do in Mofa is try to bring a bit of that cognac technique of
Okay.
changing liquid to through cask. But yeah, it's a different philosophy, and I think you need to adapt to the philosophy of it. But it's not that common to change cask. What's happened in Scotch whiskey is there is the philosophy of cask finish.
Hmm.
That's is not really happening in cognac. It's the fact to when you think your whiskey is ready, you want to add another layer to it. You will finish the whiskey into a port cask or a sherry cask, and it will bring more complexity. And that's something that is really on the Scottish tradition to have like a cask finish, and it's not that much into cognac, but no, it's not common.
Yeah, well, that cask finishing process really got popularized by David Stewart at Balvenie and Glenfiddich about
Yeah.
40 years ago.
Yes.
But we know that cognac producers are quite resistant to adapting to new techniques. Not all of them, but
Yeah.
some of them.
Yeah. They
Yeah,
doesn't. The cognac producer think that cask finish is not working well for the cognac.
yeah.
It's like all that work of changing liquid, changing cask, all that
Hmm.
work of integration for at the end put it in a sherry cask who might just destroy the whole
Yeah,
work that had been
yeah.
happening before. So it's just two different way of seeing the thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have one question, which is a kind of pet question of mine. You talk about all of the different uh, treatment levels of kilning for the grain.
Yes.
Now, are you going to use just exclusively one type, like a chocolate malt, or will some distillers have a blend of different malts together in their mash bill?
Personally, we are making a blend. Personally, at Mofa, we are using light kiln and a very high proportion.
Mm-hmm.
We use a little bit of medium kiln and a heavy kiln.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you represent like 2%.
Okay.
And it happens sometimes that we use like pitted barley because
Okay.
we realize that it push up the fruitiness. Uh,
Ah.
have a very small amount of pitted barley will help to push the fruitiness of the light and the medium kiln. But it's completely up to the distiller
Yeah.
to create his own what they call in United States like mash bill. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. And I guess in Scotland, people don't really talk about how they play with the kilning
No,
levels of various
no,
different
no.
grains so much.
We are quite transparent about that
Yeah.
in Mofa, but yeah, it's a kind of the recipe,
Hmm.
the recipe of the house, and but yeah.
Oh, very beautiful. And when can we expect to see your single malt whiskey on the market?
We have to wait 2 more years
Okay.
until we have a 3 years old. It's not going to be a 10 years old
Hmm.
a single malt, but I think we're going to release a few bottles of 3 years old. That will be the first single malt made with wood fire still since I don't know centuries. So
Wow.
we are quite excited, and for what we see on the cask at the moment, we are very happy about it.
Amazing.
So.
Amazing. Well, please do make sure to send us down a
Oh
sample
yeah,
of
definitely.
WSET for
Definitely.
yeah. Very much look forward to that. Thank you very much, Guillaume, for
Yeah, thank you so
giving
much.
such an interesting and unique insight into the different approaches to cognac and Scotch whiskey making.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for completing the feedback poll, which has come up on your screen. The recording of this session will be emailed to everybody who registered for it, as well as being available to watch on the WSET Events Hub on YouTube, where you can also catch up on all of our previous spirits, wine, beers, and sake webinars. To find out more about our spirits qualifications, visit the Where to Study page at wsetglobal.com. So from me, it's thank you very much. And from Guillaume,
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you so much, everybody. Thank you.
thank you very much indeed, everybody. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.